Arizona football coach Brent Brennan joins me. David Smoke, 365 Sports. And we'll see you in about a little bit less than a month at Big 12 Media Days, but we do appreciate you jumping on with us today. You have had the entire offseason, not just part of the offseason. I know last year didn't go the way you planned or wanted it. How much of that makes a difference, do you think, headed into the fall?
I think we're really excited about where we're at right now with this team. We've had a great offseason. We've added some key players in the portal. And we've also added some big time, personnel in the coaching and recruiting department. So I'm excited about where we're at. We're moving forward. Our guys are locked into the process, and we're getting after it every single day here.
Sometimes the portal taketh away, and that happens to everybody. And then also sometimes the portal can allow you to renovate, rebuild, or whatever even quicker. We've seen that happen over the last 3 to 4 years. How much of that did that play a factor in what you're doing?
Well, I think this year the portal was a huge factor, right? Just the timing of when we got hired a year ago or a year and a half ago, missing the first portal, having to survive the head coach portal created by the vacancy here, and then also the spring ball portal. It was a much different way to start the program. And I think where we're at now is just when we came back from Christmas vacation with the team, everybody's like, we're all in and we're moving forward together. And that's the only way we're going to talk about it. That's the only way we're going to do it. And if you want to get in the portal, then go now and just get out now so that we can build the team from the ground up starting in January all the way through August.
There has been discussion of what to do with the portal. And this is, there's so many committees and it gets to the point where just somebody make a decision. What would you rather see?
I think, a singular portal is what college football needs. I would like it to be in January at some point because I think there's a couple things there. I think number one, you would like to have the entire offseason to build and develop your football team. And then I think also in the reality of revenue sharing with our student athletes, with having two portals or having the portal later in the year, you can be put in a situation where we pay a student athlete for 4, 5, 6 months and then he leaves, right? And so it's kind of like that money was wasted in the process, and we don't want to do that. So I think in interest of making every dollar count that we put into our student athletes and also maximizing our chance to build a consistent, sustainable winner at Arizona, I'd like it to be in January.
Brent, what have you learned about the Big 12 in such a short amount of time?
The Big 12 is a tough conference. I think the thing that's really interesting about it is I think the conference is incredibly deep. I think there's, every team in the conference is good enough to beat you. And I think as you kind of prepare for that, you also have to know that when you go on the road, you're not going to play in any empty stadiums. You're going to play in absolutely sold out, rabid fan bases that are on you the moment you step into the stadium.
There are traditions that come with everybody. You have your traditions. Obviously, the 4 schools from the Pac-12 have theirs, and everybody else does. Do you know enough about each program, or does that even come into play?
In terms of, like, what they do?
Yeah, just their history, their tradition, or what maybe is something that kind of is a point of theirs. You know what I mean? You go into, for example, you're going to play in new places this year. You played in new places last year, just to kind of get to know the landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in those situations, you lean on coaches that have coached in those other stadiums that have played in this conference before. I think that's always helpful. And I think as you go and you're playing against and coaching against the same coaching staffs, you also start to build a folder. You build kind of an idea of who they are, what their identity is, what they like to do. And I think that part of it is an ongoing conversation around here. As we build and prepare for the season, we're always attacking one game at a time, but we're building out that through the offseason and also through the summer.
Did you change anything other than adding and renovating the roster, rebuilding the roster, high school transfer portal, et cetera? Did you change anything else from last year to this year?
Well, I think the biggest changes have been, a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, and a new special teams coordinator. I think we've added outstanding coaches that are going to be a lot of fun to watch. We're going to play an attacking, aggressive style of football in all 3 phases. And I think people are going to love watching this football team play. And we need to pack this house in Arizona Stadium. We got a lot of work to do. We got a tough conference. It's time to go.
Noah Fafita, he lost his Batman with McMillan headed to the NFL. That's part of the deal. You brought in some wide receivers. He, of course, last year, the stats compared to 23 were down. What about where he is both mentally and physically as he enters the summer?
Well, Noah Fafita is a really special young man, and I think people are going to love watching him play in Coach Daigie's offense. I think it's really tailored a little bit to who he is with his ability to deliver the ball quickly and accurately. And I think we've also added some pieces around him that are really going to help through the transfer portal, through the development of some players here, and then through recruiting. So I really love that receiver group. I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and I feel good about the tight end position and the running back room. So I think, to do this the way we want to do it in the attacking style we want to be, we're going to have to distribute the ball all over the field. And I think Noah gives us a great chance to do that.
What was the conversation like, Coach Brennan, with Seth Dagey when you went to talk to him about coming to Tucson?
It was awesome. I think, when we brought him in here to meet with us, I think one of the things that was really interesting to me was he talked about, what they went through at Marshall last year, right? They had a great season. They won the conference, magical run for that program. And when he was talking about it, because I know he was raised by Mike Leach and in the air raid system, right?
Right.
But really what was interesting was about the thing at Marshall was that he was in a situation where he had to kind of alter what they were doing and develop a little bit more quarterback run because their quarterback was really an effective runner. And so that was something that I found interesting. And as we were talking, he was really hell-bent on, you have to adjust your scheme to fit your personnel, which I'm a big believer in, because with the transfer portal, your personnel changes every year. So you have to be creative and you have to find new ways to move the football, get first downs, and score touchdowns. And when we were talking with Coach Dagey, you could tell right away that he was excited to be creative and excited to figure out what pieces we have here and how they can fit in his scheme and how he can, really best take advantage of what we have to get the production we want.
Did what you do as a coach at other programs before you came to Arizona, did that help build some insight and use the experience now that you have this revenue sharing, salary cap, and all of that to kind of distribute things the way you need?
I think every experience you have as a football coach or as a head coach adds value to kind of who you are, right? We all learn from experience. It's the best teacher. It's also can be the most expensive one or the most painful one. But, what we learned over time is that at the end of the day, building a team, building a roster, and retaining a roster has as much, if not more, to do with us being great men for the players that we coach, caring about them, helping them develop off the field, investing in them, beyond football. And I think, the money is the money, but at the end of the day, if we build a connected, cohesive, committed team, we're going to get the results we want.
Can you trust players as much as you used to? That's part of building the relationship you mentioned. You hope that's the case, but how difficult is that right now?
I don't think it's difficult if you do things the right way. I think, coaching and getting the most out of young men is all about building trust. And the more they trust you, the harder you can coach them and the further you can push them. And so for me, if we're dug into the competition part of it, if we're really focused on getting better and moving the needle every single day as a program and as an individual, the more trust we have, the better chance we have to do that.
You mentioned Noah Fafita. You mentioned what you brought, Ishmael Mahdi, who we saw when he was a heck of a player at Texas State, of course, started out at Houston Christian, a tremendous player. How much of an impact can he have on the run game?
Oh, I think we're really excited about him. I mentioned that running back room earlier. Ked Risino is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think, Ishmael Mahdi, Quincy Craig, it's going to be a lot of fun in there. And I think, everybody always wants to focus on a singular tailback, but to have the kind of football team that we want to have, you have to have three effective players in there because those guys get banged up. There's a lot of pounding on them. And so you got to have guys that, that you can plug and play and not have the drop off of performance be too significant. So I feel great about all three of those guys. I think we're going to love how they look. And I think you guys are going to like watching the young freshman, Corn from North Crowley, man. That kid is a playmaker. Oh, no,
let me tell you something. North Crowley was unbelievable last year. What a run they made. You've had players you've recruited out of the Houston area. Mahdi, of course, played in Plano, at Plano East, and around Texas. How much have you been able to stick a flag in the state of Texas, and how important is that to you?
I think it's really important because I think every time a player is thinking about going to any university, they do think about, what kind of ability are their parents going to have to see them play in person. I just think that's the reality of it. And I love the fact that we have great proximity here to the state of Texas, but also to the state of California and Utah, all really good states with really high quality players and high quality high school football. So it's really, really been good to us so far. We're really excited about the kids from Texas that have joined us. And then the biggest part is that I think we're doing a great job in the state of Arizona, which is critical. We have to do well here. That's got to be something that is critical for our program. And I am so impressed with how good the high school football is in the state of Arizona. It is big time.
Yeah, it really has. It's really come to a different level in the last
Yep.
decade or so, no question about it. So I asked you about some of the things you learned in the Big 12 and the depth, et cetera. Was there anything in particular that surprised you about your first year inside the Big 12?
I don't know that it surprised me, but I was impressed with the size of the offensive and defensive lines in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Big people, you know what I mean? And it kind of makes sense considering that we're kind of playing football now through the, south, to the East Coast, but just big men. And I think that's one of those things that was a focus for us this season is, getting big guys that can move in the offensive and defensive line, because it all starts there, right? Like everybody wants to talk about Noah Fafita, and thank God we have Noah Fafita. I love him, but but you got to have the big boys up front, and that's where the work gets done.
What about Noah? His arm, his ability, his ability to be able to move around in the pocket, etc. Tell us a little bit, or give us a Noah Fafita story that might be your favorite, that maybe summarizes him pretty well.
Football story or an off the field story?
Yeah, I'll take either. I love human interest. I like the off the field as much as I do the football, no matter what we're covering.
So this young man is so committed to this program. He went home last year when school got out in May, and we had a receiver coming to town, a big time receiver, and so I called him and I said, "Hey, this kid's coming to town. I need your help." He drove back here from Los Angeles to be here for the official visit for this, from Orange County, Juice County, like he likes to call it. But he drove back here for the official visit. That's how important it was to him. That's how much this kid loves the University of Arizona. That's how much he loves the city of Tucson, because he wants to put a product on the team that the city of Tucson's excited to watch. He wants them to come out and cheer for his teammates and cheer for this team and help us have a home field advantage that's impactful.
Can that marinate into the rest of the team? Can that soak into the veins of the rest of his teammates?
Oh, absolutely, and it does. I mean, I've been so impressed with just how these players, how they rally around the recruiting process, how unselfish they are with that. They show up, they want to be a part of it. They want to vet the players that we're bringing in here also, right? They want to make sure that the players that we're bringing into the Bear Down Brotherhood are great human beings and also great football players, right? So they'll watch their highlight tapes. They'll be there part of the recruiting process. They'll be here on the visits because they want to bring the best players we can to continue to elevate our program.
The two schools out of Arizona, obviously Arizona had a great run, and you're trying to put them back to where they were, and ASU had their run. How important is that to feed off each other, and also knowing that Kenny Dillingham and the Sun Devils had a hell of a year last year?
Yeah, absolutely. I respect what those guys did, but I really just focus on what we're trying to do here. I think it's healthy if both the schools in Arizona are playing high-quality football. It adds to the rivalry. It makes that last game, Thanksgiving weekend, have all kinds of intensity and energy and juice behind it, which we love because that's how rivalry should be. And I think it's important because, as teams that are new in this conference, we need to show everybody in the Big 12 that we can play great football here in the state of Arizona.
How about the baseball team giving you a lift, huh? That was I hate they got knocked out, but I mean, they were really, really good and did real well, and it came to an end in Omaha, but that Arizona had an impact on that for the Big 12.
No, it was awesome. I think Chip Hale's a really outstanding baseball coach. The guy's really special. His staff, those players, a year ago they win the Pac-12. This year they win the Big 12 and they get to the College World Series. Just what an outstanding job by those players and that coaching staff. And it was so fun to be along for the ride, right? We were so excited to watch them as they continued on their march.
All right, last thing. I know you're busy. Appreciate your time. I know there's a lot. How much do you get done between now and when you kick off in late August? You have 3 straight home games, and K-State's the 3rd game. I know you're worried about Hawaii first. How much do you get accomplished, or you need to get accomplished? And how do you say on a scale of 1 to 10 where you are now compared to where you were at this time a year ago?
Okay, there's 7 questions in there, so I'll try and
I'm sorry.
I'll try and dive into it. Obviously, this time of year is a huge part in preparation for training camp. Kind of early scouting for our opponents next year. Definitely probably the first 4 games. By then you kind of have more recent film on everybody, but you definitely want to get a baseline with who you're coaching against, what they like to do schematically. So everybody invests a good amount of time doing that now. Right now is also a huge recruiting time for us. So the month of June has been camps every week. and then also official visits on the weekend. And we love the progress we're making with the class of 26. It's going to be a big time class, and the people of Arizona are going to absolutely love watching these guys play. And so the progress is exciting, but like right now, the month of June is absolute chaos. And then we can kind of settle in, with the work for training camp, and how are we going to structure our practices, and how are we going to structure camp, and when do we, what days are off and what days are full tilt, and trying to figure all that out so that we make sure we build the best plan. And that's a big task, because you're talking through that with your training room, your strength staff, all of your assistant coaches, and obviously the equipment guys and the creative team. So that's we're in the process of kind of planning that now. So there's still a ton of work to be done. And then the last question I think you asked is like, where do I feel in regards to where we were at last year?
Night and day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's night and day, man. We are, I just feel like we're way further ahead. I feel like we're in a great spot. I think this team knows what the expectations are for how we work and how we go about our business. These kids have been fantastic buying in. We've just had the highest, football team GPA we ever had in the history of Arizona football. So everybody's all on the same page, and we're moving forward together, and I love that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Brent Brennan, head coach at Arizona. David Smoke, 365 Sports.